The School of Names, a philosophy of warring states China. The first was Deng Si, the first famous lawyer of ancient China, who used and taught wordplay for court trials, who would often argue both sides of a case, much like Pyrrho was said to do of ancient Greece. And he argued that contradictory judgments can both be true, which you would know very much as a lawyer arguing for a client or two. Things are arguably good and arguably bad both. For this, he was executed for making contradictory statements others struggled to explain after the state fell into disorder. Of the Greeks, they're somewhat similar to the Eleatics, who argue that the tortoise can never catch Achilles if there is an infinite regress of halves to complete the whole distance, separating the two. There's the arrow and other related problems. The two famous first and last masters of the school of names, after the founder, are Hui Shi, a good friend of the Taoist Zhuangzi, according to many accounts, and Gongsun Long. He infamously argued a white horse is not a horse. It puns on the ways that language is used, which is very much logic. The works of these dialecticians has been lost, except for many mentions in the books of Zhuangzi and the partially preserved Gongsun Longzi. Sun Tzu actually says that these people abuse names to sow chaos throughout the land. Their views have some basis in statements of reason, enough to trick and confuse most people. So Sun Tzu is on the case here, and he's telling us as a Confucian that, yeah, these guys, they just like tricking people. They know enough about meaning, so you can judge for yourself. The Zhuangzi says there are some who strangely live by proving the impossible is possible and affirming what others deny. Hui Shi appears several times in this text. Gongsun Long, in his work, in the Gongsun Longzi, when I was young, I studied the ways of early kings and grew to understand how to practice compassion and righteousness. I unified the same and different and affirmed what others denied. I confounded the wisdom of all the philosophers and refuted all arguments brought against me. It seemed that I was the wisest. That's very Socratic, actually. This guy has never heard of Socrates. So again, is this evil trickery or is this the master of logic? All of this puts the Taoists in alliance with the School of Names, but we also are told in the Zhuangzi that the School of Names could overcome words but couldn't convince minds, and this was their weakness, and that Hui Shi thought himself the best at debate, but he was never at ease with those he debated. Zhuangzi said the fish were certainly happy. Hui Shi says, how do you know you are not a fish? Zhuangzi says, okay, well then how do you know that I don't know that? You're not me. Hui Shi is then mentioned in the Zhuangzi text. Zhuangzi walks by Hui Shi's grave and sadly says, now I have no one to argue with. The School of Names leaves behind 31 paradoxes, the first 10 of Hui Shi and 21 others included in the work of Gongsun Long. Hui Shi's paradoxes are using words in ways, thus, that are counterintuitive, but these tricks work very well as forms of thought and logic. Counterintuitive meanings in that situation could have been true given a different situation or something slightly out of frame. Hui Shi's first paradox is, nothing is larger than the largest thing, which is the larger measurement, and there is nothing smaller than the smallest thing, which is the smallest measurement. Zhuangzi, Hui Shi's friend, says the cosmos isn't large and the tip of a hair isn't small, as there are larger and smaller things, measuring each against the smallest and largest. If there is no largest or smallest thing that can be named, then we can call any large thing small compared to the large itself, and any small thing large compared to the small itself. There is a Chinese proverb that says a foot can be short and an inch can be long. Hui Shi's second paradox is that what has no thickness can't be piled up, but it can cover 1,000 miles. As the Zhuangzi tells us, a knife's edge has no thickness, regressing to a point, all very Zeno. Hui Shi is likely speaking of an idealized edge or a straight line. Hui Shi's third paradox is heaven is as low as the earth, and mountains and marshes are on the same level. Mountains and marshes are not on the same level because here are the mountains in the Chinese painting and here are the marshes. And they are also on the same level because on the horizon, the sky and the earth are the same. They meet. Hui Shi's fourth paradox is the sun is setting at high noon, and living things die as soon as they are born. That's very Heraclitus. As soon as the sun is rising, the sun is setting. It is also at high noon, the sun is on the threshold, is both rising and setting. Hui Shi's fifth paradox says the smaller sameness, the lesser similarity, is that large sameness is different from small sameness, but the greater sameness is that all things are similar and different from one another. This is quite confusing without a concrete example. Consider a bowl of apples and oranges. All are round, all are fruit, and all are edible. Yet it is easy to see that the apples are more more similar to each other than the oranges. You can easily see here are apples, here are oranges. It is difficult, obscured by this easy way of seeing things, to see that no two apples and no two oranges are entirely alike, and at the same time, that all of these things are round pieces of fruit. So oddly enough, it is true to call it and say in words, apples are like apples and they're not like oranges, and oranges are like oranges and they're not like apples. All apples and oranges are alike because they're all round pieces of fruit, and also no other item in the bowl is like this orange or this orange, and no other item in the bowl is like this apple. You can see the contrary ways that you are in a sense, and I am contradicting myself in words, but all of that is true dialectically. Hui Shi's sixth paradox is that the South has no limit and yet has a limit. The South is always south of you. The South has a limit. There's a way that you can't get further south somehow. If I go to the North Pole, then the South sort of doesn't have a limit because it moves with me. Hui Shi's seventh paradox is someone goes to Yue, this is a famous one, a neighboring state today, and arrives yesterday. I have seen several people say this is pure nonsense. No, it isn't. If somebody crosses the border of Yue at the stroke of midnight, you would have technically gone to Yue today, gone to Yue yesterday, left Chu yesterday, left Chu today, all four, so you remove the two, and you went to Chua today and arrived yesterday. Hui Shi's eighth paradox is chained rings, like those used in Chinese and later Arabic and European magic acts. A chain is separate in each ring, such that we can point to each link and say it is a wholly individual thing, and then we can point to the chain as a whole and say it is a wholly integrated thing, including all the links together beyond themselves. Hui Shi's ninth paradox is the center of the world is north of the northern provinces and south of the southern provinces, which is only possible if the center is both in different and separate places, so that is similar to the south, much as the Emerald Tablet said about the cosmos being a circle with the center everywhere and nowhere. Hui Shi's final 10th paradox is we should love all things as heaven and earth are one at the middle with the marshes and the thing, and is and isn't, and we've already walked through enough paradoxes. The whole is the sum of the parts and beyond the parts as all the parts and the whole. Any different way you talk about it, and this is basic Hegelian kinds of dialectic and Plato with the Parmenides.